Hello there. This is a video on the subject of sketching. I teach sumie, and some of my students ask me about how they can practice their sumie at home. And surprisingly, one of the things I recommend is that they do sketching. The sumie artists that have beaten the path for us extensively studied from nature, and I think from my standpoint that's important for us to go out into nature and observe and to learn, and it's also an excellent practice for your own hand and mind and powers of observation to occasionally go out and sketch. Sketching is not necessarily meant to create works of art. Although if you have a nice sketchbook, maybe people will admire it. But it's a way for you to learn. It's a way for you to capture information. And it's very beneficial for all artists, including sumie artists. In sumie, we emphasize quite a bit the power of our brush strokes, our techniques of how we load the brush, and the effects of ink, but we should also know what we're depicting, and one of the great ways to do that is to sketch, and to sketch often. So I'm going to talk about some of the different reasons that I sketch, why I sketch is important. I'm going to talk a little bit about what materials I use for sketching, and I will show some results, but that's not the main focus of this. It's more to tell you what to bring and how to start doing it. Let's start with just one or two definitions. Sketching is something that I define as being a painting that you do using materials that are being held in your hands. Therefore, I'm not going to talk so much about plein air painting, which would be the case of you going out with an easel and a full set of oil paints, because that's a little beyond sketching. In those cases, I think some of those artists are doing final pieces of art for their own sake. There's nothing wrong with plein air sketching. That's fun. Plein air painting, that's fun. But what we want to do is we want to sketch for other purposes using a kit that's a little simpler. So we want to sketch to capture information. We want to learn about subjects. We want to improve our coordination between our hand, our eyes, and our mind. And sometimes we want to create a narrative. Sometimes I like to sketch to record my travels, and sometimes record a scene that I like just for its own sake. I find that when I take a picture of something, that's all well and good, but when I've taken a sketch of something, I have observed it much more deeply. So it's a good way for me sometimes to remember a little bit about that trip abroad that I took. So those are the reasons to do it. Let's talk a little bit about the materials that we would use for sketching. The first form of sketching that I'll talk about is what I basically call limited sketching, which is what you might do if you're stuck at the airport or you're in a cafe somewhere and they eventually will want you to leave, but in the meanwhile they're letting you stay for a little while to do some drawing. Maybe you've got a nice view. In a case like that, you'll do limited sketching. So when I do limited sketching, I have a little kit that I've developed for myself, and I'll show it to you. This is all that I have when I do limited sketching. I have a paper pad that's got some fairly substantial paper, like a mixed media paper, that's about the size of my hand. So I think this one might be 5 by 7, sounds about right. And then I have a Velcro tab around it that keeps my little pack of watercolors, and a few pens and pencils. I have in my kit a mechanical pencil. The beauty of the mechanical pencil is it really doesn't need to be sharpened much during sketching, and you can change the leads out to match your sketching style. Some people might like a dark lead. Some people might like a harder lead. So I can choose the lead I want, and as I sketch, I can extend the lead, and therefore I don't have to worry about pencil shavings and things like that. So I suggest for limited sketching a mechanical pencil. I like to have a brush pen. This brush pen is by Kuretake, and sometimes they're called brush fude, and it is a brush that has it's got hairs at the end of it, and it's got a cartridge inside with ink in it, and I can put line work in with this. I can go over the pencil marks if I want to do that, but I can put my lines down, and I can keep drawing with a fairly continuous line, and then I might use a water pen, and the water pen will take the ink that's still drying. In this case, the ink it's probably water soluble anyway, and I can push the ink around with the water brush afterward and create tones. The other thing I like to have is I don't know if I'd call this a magic marker, but I'd call it a marker. The brand that I kind of like is called Sakura Pigma Sensei. This one has got ink that once it's dry, it's set. Therefore, this one I might use if I'm doing some outlining that I wish to preserve and then do some watercolor. I then have a small, I was having trouble opening this up before, and I might still have trouble, but I have a little collection of watercolors. I just want the most basic colors there, because from this group of colors I can mix anything I need, but I don't want to work very wet because at any moment the waiter is going to come and say, here's your bill and we need the table. So I don't want to be caught with a wet wash down on this. So I'm just going to be using this to do a little dabbing here and there. I don't want to get very wet. There's a little mixing area here as well. There's even, and some of these even have a nice little brush attached to them, but you can also use your water brush. This gives me everything I need for quick sketching. I can take this just about anywhere. I think, oh, by the way, 2 clips necessary to mark the pages and protect the pages that have already been painted on. You could use, instead of a bound book, you could get one that has that's got the wire binding instead, if you are the type of person that wants to take out pieces. But I usually just use a bound book like this, and the purpose of this might be to just relax for a little while, practice my drawing, and then get my plane and be on time. And I pack up just like this, and I'm ready to go. So this would be the most limited kind of sketching. But now we would go to the kind of sketching where I might be in the park a little bit longer. I'm going to maybe find a kind of a nice Victorian house or a nice view that I want to capture. It's going to be a nice day outside, so I want to sketch for an hour or two. Not necessarily trying to create a great piece of art, but just to enjoy the day. In a case like that, I step up my kit a little bit. Now, I can take this very kit that I've already got and put it into my main sketching kit. Now, main sketching kit, this one is a toolbox I got somewhere. And I can actually put this version right into this. And off I go. I would put this into here. So this goes right in here. It opens up. But because I've got a little more time and I don't have to catch my flight, I can bring a few more items. So in this case, what I might do, I will probably bring a bigger book than this. So I might not have to bring this. I might bring some other things instead, and I will show you those. I'm going to switch the camera now, though. Okay. Well, they won't let me, so I'm going to have to show it like this. So what have I got in my magic kit? So the first thing that I like is I like to get a little palette like this. This is a really ingenious little device. This is called a magic palette, and it's got a metal sleeve, and it has it's got a room for a lot of colors. There's a rubber gasket, and you can put your paints in this ahead of time, so you don't have to carry tubes of paint with you, but you can spray this, and the gasket keeps the paints moist. And well, I've got room for about 18 different colors there, 21 colors here. And the nice thing about this is that this fastens onto the covering, and I can then turn that into a palette like so, and paint with this. Also, in my goodie bag of different things in this kit, I have a sharpener for pencils. I like to keep this. Now I got time to do some erasing, so I've got a kneaded eraser and a white eraser. A little bit of sandpaper to put an edge on my pencils. And then a variety of pencils. I might use I've got some carbon pencils here and some regular pencils in different strengths. And then this pencil is an all graphite pencil, so I don't have to. I can draw with the whole side of this, not just the point. So I can block in kind of a lot of an area. I don't usually carry charcoal with me because I find it a little bit messy. But if you're the type of person that does sketch with charcoal, you can do it. Just put it in a baggie. I also have a few colored pencils I bring with me just about everywhere. I find the reds kind of handy, and a white just in case I'm working on toned paper. I carry a few bigger brushes with me. I usually carry kind of a big area brush, a filbert, a square brush, and two of the more, I guess these are the brushes that have the point. So I've got these. I don't bring my good sable brushes with me because these bounce around a little bit. So I like to use the ones that have got man-made fibers in this because they stand up a little bit to the wear and tear. My sables I keep at home. So along with this kit, I do have this ingenious little water bucket. This folds into three. You can snap this together, and it makes a nice, You can keep clean water and maybe have 2 of these for rinsing your brush. So this is a nice thing to have. And that's what I would use for my sketching. But I will also add that I will take a stool with me. Now, maybe I'll be lucky and I get a bench that's not occupied, or there's some place to sit. But if there's not, this is awfully handy. And even if you do find another place to sit, you can put some of your tools on this then and kind of use it as a little table. If you've got and the nice thing about it is it's got something for you to sling over your shoulder. So I find this almost always useful for going sketching. So that is the basic sketch kit. So when I've got the basic sketch kit, what I will do is I can work a little bit bigger than this kit. I can probably work as much as a pad that's 8 by 14, and I tend to like the mixed media paper. One of the best ones that I've found is Bee Paper Company Aqua Bee, and this paper is pretty heavy paper, and it takes washes and watercolor. It doesn't buckle very much. It might buckle a little bit if you're doing heavy washes, but you can do watercolor with it. But it's also got a pretty nice tooth if you are doing other things. Now, I didn't encounter this bear, but this is one I did with marker in my studio. This is one I did with a combination of markers and watercolor. And then sometimes I do studies in here. But this is sufficient for watercolor, but here's a color pencil one. So this pad is very nice. You could also use if you're working in watercolor, you can use a watercolor pad, and you've got a few bulldog clips to hold this in place, and you can do watercolor with that. There's also what I call blocks, such as this, this is drawing ink and this one is special watercolor paper, but it can be used for pastel as well. And this one, I sat there and did this painting in Kyoto a while back in the spring. So you basically paint on this, and when you're done with it and you're happy with it, there's a place in the corner where you take it off and then put the painting somewhere else and go to the next one. This is very nice for working basically on your lap. So here's some examples of some of those that I did on that trip. So they're just kind of, are these going to go to the Louvre? I don't know, but I had fun doing them, and I remember these spots in Japan very well now. Maybe later on I would take my sketch and the colors in the sketch, and I might take some photographs I also took on that site and do maybe a more detailed work of art. But I've got the spirit of the day on that. So that's how we might use watercolor for doing our sketches. I also sometimes sketch using pastels, surprisingly enough. Pastels? Yes. You can sketch using pastels. Now, with the pastels, I might bring this kit with me, but I might not bring the brushes with me. I might just take the eraser and the clips out of that. And when I do a sketch in pastel, what I will do is I like to take one of my other sketchbooks that's substantial with a substantial cover, and then I put the pastel paper in the sketchbook. And then I start this. I've got a nice, hard, firm base for my pastel drawing. And then I use a clip to hold this off to keep from coming apart like so. And then I use pastel pencils. And pastel pencils are going to be carried in a pastel kit such as this. So here I've got some Conti pastels and some Carb Othello. I've got quite a few colors there, and I'll bring a kneaded eraser and a sharpener, but basically this, and this gives me all I will need to do a pastel drawing. And with the pastel pencils, I can block in some tones. I like to use a colored or a toned background. That way the pastels will not be trying to cover white paper. That's a little bit difficult to do because when we're doing sketching, we're working pretty fast. So we can't take the time to cover all the white that's coming from below. So it's better to start with a toned ground or a color that's already predominant. But when you do that, you can do a nice sketch. So once you're done with your sketch, you will take this out of this book and put it in another protected book with a piece of glassine over it, because otherwise you can get smearing. But fun to do these, and the thing about pastel is you can block in the tones and colors pretty quickly, and the pencils are ideal. You could use another product called New Pastels that are very effective, and you can, if you want to, sharpen the tip of them, and those can be good too. But basically, I use the pastel pencils for that. The next potential thing that I could use is colored pencils. The colored pencils are going to be that I'm going to use. I also will tend to put them, first off, I'll work a little smaller than pastel or even watercolor, because colored pencils are a little bit hard when you're sketching to get the coverage you need. To get that all blue sky in the background is going to take a lot of drawing. By that time, the light's changed or something like that. So instead, I pick a color paper that's kind of a predominant background color, and then put the colored pencil down. Now these are also found in one of these books. That it's kind of not a book. It's a sort of got a lot of different colored pencils. I've got a range here. It's all in a nice, easy, portable pastel or watercolor. Well, I guess say a portable pencil holder like this. Now, another option I have is to work smaller yet. And if I work smaller yet, I can get sketches done very quick. This paper here is called Art Creation by Talons, and has got a very nice tooth for color pencil. But you might be able to do a more intimate sketch, smaller scale, with stronger color if you stay with a smaller book. If you're going to work very large, I find that getting the color pencils to get deep enough and things like that is not that practical. So work a little bit smaller or on toned paper with your colored pencil. I did find that a company called Kohinoor makes colored pencils that do not have wood, so those you can block in the color a little faster. You can work on the side a little bit and put more color down. So with these, that allows you to work a little bit bigger. And so that's not a bad thing to have. The best pencils that I've found for sketching are Prismacolor because they put down the color very rapidly, and the color's pretty rich. So Prismacolor is very good. Luminance by Caran d'Ache is very good as well. And the other one that is Polychromos is also good, but I think Polychromos is better for detail work since it's a little bit drier. The next one I'll mention is, I will mention oil pastels as a potential for sketching. With oil pastels, you can get a very nice selection. The best ones are Caran d'Ache Neo pastels. Well, considered among the best, we'll say it that way. And they have a nice selection of 96 colors, which is plenty. And the advantage to the Neo pastel oil pastels is that they're firm, but they have no dust. So they're a little bit less likely to create a mess than if you're using regular pastels, but they put down a lot of color very quickly. So that if you do want to take up a sketch of this size, you probably can get the whole paper covered in your colors. During an hour, maybe 45 minutes, you can cover the page because a lot of color comes off these. Another very good brand that I have found is nice, but it's a little hard to get in the United States, is called Holbein. Holbein sets come in a wooden box, and then the wooden box has plastic boxes. And these are very good for sketching, and I like to put them on Canson paper. Very nice to do. And like the Caran d'Ache, they are going to be very good because no dust, and you can rapidly add color. And then the last thing I'll mention is sketching with gouache. And the sketching with gouache is going to be where I have gouache, and the gouache is an opaque watercolor, and I use them with small brushes, and I will put them on a plate. Now you can use this is a porcelain plate, but you can use a plastic plate, and you put out as much as you need to in the plastic plate, and then take it up, and they will dry with a very nice opaque effect. And you can also paint a large area kind of rapidly. So now I sometimes, with both the oil pastels and the gouache, like to use a paper that's a mixed media gray or a mixed media tan. This is one I did, just an abstract, but with color pencil. But this one was one that I did. This sketch is a gouache sketch. So this one I mixed, and I was able to put the gouache on where I wanted the gouache to go on, and because there's gray down, don't have to worry about the background so much. And then this one was another. This one I think I did color. This is color pencil. This one is a oil pastel. Oil pastel. This is more just a chart there. So for doing gouache or oil pastel, Strathmore toned gray mixed media, very good. Another nice one that I have had good luck with is another Strathmore toned blue mixed media. There's several other good ones like that. Those, because they're mixed media, they will stand up to some water, and they will also have a pretty nice tooth to take the oil pastel. So those are some of the examples of the sketching tools that you will use. So I hope you enjoy this discussion, and happy sketching.